Their last game, a loss against Phoenix, these were the back-to-back plays she was involved in on the offensive end. Created a lot of conversation over the past week. Clark would continue playing the rest of the second quarter and then would leave the middle of the third quarter with a back.
The WNBA is in absolute chaos, and now a stunning medical revelation has fans asking one terrifying question. Has the league's biggest superstar been pushed too far? Just when everyone thought they understood what happened to Caitlin Clark, a shocking update from medical experts has completely changed the conversation. What they revealed isn't just raising eyebrows, it could expose a much bigger problem that many believe has been ignored for far too long. For weeks, basketball fans have watched Clark absorb brutal contact, controversial fouls, and relentless physical play. Every hard hit has sparked fierce debates across social media, with supporters accusing the league of failing to protect its brightest young star. But now, after the latest injury scare, doctors are reportedly warning that the consequences of repeated dangerous contact could be far more serious than most people realize. Recent reports have highlighted medical concerns about throat trauma and Clark's latest injury setback, adding even more fuel to the growing controversy. Was this simply another unfortunate basketball injury, or is it proof that something inside the WNBA needs to change immediately? Fans are completely divided. Some believe basketball is naturally physical and Clark must adjust. Others insist the officiating has failed, allowing unnecessary hits that place players at risk. Meanwhile, the league finds itself under enormous pressure as every new development creates another wave of headlines. Former players, analysts, and millions of fans continue to argue over whether enough is being done to protect the game's biggest attraction. Every statement from coaches, every medical update, and every replay only adds more questions than answers, but here's where this story takes an even more surprising turn. Behind the scenes, insiders are reportedly discussing what Clark's recovery could mean not only for her season but also for the future of the WNBA itself. If these medical concerns prove more serious than expected, the fallout could reshape how the league handles player safety forever. So what exactly did doctors reveal? How serious is Clark's condition? And why are so many fans convinced this changes everything? Stay with us, because the full story is even more unbelievable than the headlines suggest. According to numerous unnamed orthopedic physicians, this is where the red flags begin to appear. Caitlin's injuries are far more serious than what is commonly considered normal. At the very least, we are talking about it week by week, and only if she gets total rest, care, and rehabilitation. Instead, she's flying across the country, playing for more than 30 minutes, and making promotional appearances for a league that is clearly benefiting from her notoriety without protecting the body that supports it. Some fans have started referring to it as exploitation. How the body decomposed. This is what's going behind the scenes. Clark reportedly gained significant muscle mass prior to the season, most likely in an attempt to prepare for the more physical professional game. However, if bulking up is not adequately integrated, it affects biomechanics while increasing strength and durability. She employed a somewhat different shooting technique. Her regular gait was interrupted by a tiny alteration in her movement habits. Her movement habits have changed slightly. The WNBA's schedule is demanding, with back-to-back games, strong defensive pressure, and little time to rest. The end result is a body pushed to its limits, forced to adjust for each injury until it fails. The breaking point was the Connecticut game. And that's exactly what happened during the Fever's game against the Connecticut Sun. It wasn't just that she stood up slowly, it was how she reacted. She grimaced. She tried to run it off. She hunched over, hands on her knees. The tears, however, are the most telling feature. Clark, who is always stern on the court, cried on the bench. It wasn't just physical suffering. That was frustration, anxiety, and complete emotional exhaustion. Nonetheless, the league categorized it as moderate pain. Just imagine LeBron doing it during his rookie season. Would you expect the NBA to downplay it? Just that. The squad is losing faith. Many fans guessed, and others close to Clark's team have now verified it. People close to Clark's team have confirmed this. She is no longer solely reliant on the medical personnel of Indiana Fever. She is bringing in outside experts, including biomechanical assessors, regenerative treatment consultants, and NBA-level specialists. At this point, her trust has been broken. Can you blame her? When your team treats a succession of cascading injuries as if they were minor bruises, their attention turns from basketball to self-preservation. This is not about missed games. It is about preserving a career. Enter sophisticated treatments. So, what comes next? According to rumors, Clark's medical team is considering adopting a variety of cutting-edge regeneration procedures to help her recovery. We are discussing biomechanical retraining to prevent reinjury by addressing the imbalances that caused her injuries in the first place, stem cell therapy to accelerate tissue regeneration in damaged muscle fibers, and hyperbaric oxygen chamber treatments to reduce inflammation and enhance circulation. Healing isn't the primary purpose here. Her body has to be reset before things spiral out of hand. However, the Indiana Fever organization has made no mention of these approaches. They continue to serve fans on a daily basis. People are awakened. Fans are not foolish. They observe what is going on. People notice when Clark limps down the court, grips her hip, or departs from the bench during timeouts. More importantly, they are outraged. Already, the hashtags are popular. Hashtag protect Caitlin, hashtag fever fail, hashtag not today. Her family has privately expressed concerns, and other players have begun to express dissatisfaction with how the league protects or fails to safeguard its stars. The question is not whether things should change, but when it comes to athlete empowerment. Let's zoom out again, and what we're seeing with Caitlin Clark is part of a bigger trend in professional sports, where great players are no longer simply listening to team doctors. They're taking control of their bodies, hiring their own, and speaking up when things don't seem right. Finally, this isn't about being devoted to a jersey. It is about surviving in the workplace. Clark battled hard to get to the top and would not let it crumble because someone else took her injury lightly. She is regaining control, which could be the smartest decision she has taken in her career so far. Clark's decision and what it means for the WNBA. This is a turning point for the league. If they want Caitlin Clark to be the WNBA's face, with TV deals, crowded arenas, and sold-out gear, they must accomplish what they haven't done thus far. Keep her secure. This implies stricter enforcement of dangerous plays. This leads to improved travel conditions. It denotes public transparency regarding medical evaluations. And, yes, it may be necessary to intervene when teams mishandle injuries. If the league fails to show that it cares about its stars, they are unlikely to stay. A comeback is on the way, but it will be on her terms. This is the hopeful part. Clark isn't finished. There should be no time limits imposed on media pylons because they cannot. Because she now knows who is on her side and what she needs to do to protect herself, this injury tale could be the best thing that has ever happened to her in the long run. She'll have a snooze. She'll get better. She will return with greater strength. However, it will not be because she was informed she was on a day-to-day basis. It will be the result of her determination to recuperate properly. Here's what we discovered. Caitlin Clark isn't simply competing against defenders on the court. She's fighting the entire system for it. One that is quick to profit, slow to adapt, and all too willing to ignore damage warning signs until it's too late. However, she no longer cooperates. Clark is taking a different approach in the absence of additional physicians, cutting-edge medicines, and a new viewpoint on her health. One that does not need consent. One who refuses to accept day-to-day life when the reality is inadequate. And one that could set a new norm for athlete empowerment in women's sports. You don't bet against Caitlin Clark, which we already know. In athletics, there is a saying that pain is momentary, pride is forever. However, Caitlin Clark's groin is not being cured by pride. Ice baths do not solve the structural problems in her environment. Ice baths. Furthermore, since the start of her rookie season, the cycle of reinjury has spun like a rigged carousel, and no encouraging quote will stop it. This is more than simply a physical breakdown. It's a cultural one, as Caitlin Clark has become a lightning rod. The defenders not only aim to wear her down, but they also represent every failing, obsolete method, and shortcut that the WNBA and the Indiana Fever have taken in managing the league's face. And now she's finished waiting. The look of healing. This is the section they do not want you to see. Clark has been limping during practice, wincing during lateral drills, and missing full scrimmages due to pre-game warm-ups and cryptic game-time decision designations. Despite her apparent effort, anyone who pays attention can tell she is not entirely committed. There should be no time constraints on media pylons because they cannot even close. When the Fever say she's getting better, they mean she can jog up the court without collapsing. That isn't advancement. Desperation is what it is. Furthermore, jogging is a death sentence for her style of play, as she relies on quickness, angles, and quick decisions. The real cost of playing was pain. To be clear, the majority of athletes experience discomfort when competing. That is the work. Knowing when to say no is what separates the wise from the cautionary tales. Too many times, Clark responded, yes. After the initial groin strain, the response is yes to completing the game. Yes to preparing for back-to-backs with no rest days. Yes, she suffered from joint pain and stiff muscles as a result of her leadership roles in promotional events and media interviews. She gave the WNBA all they asked for and more. However, she needed time, attention, and a sound medical plan. Quiet. There should be no time limits imposed on media pylons, provided she is paying for it. There is insufficient support for veterans. One of the most surprising aspects of Clark's injury story is how few veterans have come up publicly to defend her. Where are the elder statesmen's voices in the league? Gamers who have spent years dealing with this reality are uniting in protest. There is a subtle distinction in the league between the new stars, such as Clark, who arrived with instant popularity and substantial endorsements, and the old guard, who plodded along without receiving national recognition. That strain is genuine, and it's one of the reasons Clark's life has become so lonely. Yes, there are occasional supportive tweets and whispers, but no coordinated athlete deserves to be recognized as the generational star she is. Perhaps it is part of the problem. Being Caitlin Clark is a business. The Fever are not just managing a player, they are managing a brand. Caitlin Clark jerseys flew off the racks. Her highlight film dominates SportsCenter. She sells tickets, fills arenas, and announces broadcast partnerships. As a result, when your franchise's face says, "I'm not feeling right," you don't consider it a medical issue. You consider it a marketing emergency. How can you sell a product if your star isn't on the court? Trainers, public relations personnel, and coaches are suddenly forced to spin injury reports like press releases. By this strain. As a result, instead of a specific injury timeline, fans experience minor discomfort. Instead of a break, Clark is given managed minutes. Instead of resting, she receives assurances. Everyone inhales the vapors from the smoke and mirrors. Fans are beginning to reconsider their views. This is the difficult part. Clark had more goodwill entering the league than most athletes have in 10 years. However, the injury issue, along with on-court hostility and cryptic explanations, has fueled impatience. Some admirers are starting to question if she's being spoiled. Why doesn't she persevere? Why does it seem like everything revolves around her? This is the outcome of a breakdown in transparency. People begin filling in the gaps with their own stories. In reality, however, Clark is not weak. She is tired out. She is not avoiding games. She is drawn into them before she is ready. And if fans don't notice this, the league hasn't done its job. The Indiana Fever franchise is at a crossroads. This was supposed to be the pivotal season. The arrival of Caitlin Clark was intended to usher in a new era. The squad planned for improved ticket sales and national recognition, with the ultimate goal of rising from sales and national significance to leave the bottom of the rankings. However, rather than establishing a supportive environment, they structured the team around her abilities. They entrusted her command of a team that lacked a veteran leadership structure, a backup plan, and a suspension policy to protect their star. The company must now determine how to handle her expanding sideline plans. Should they maintain the daily charade, or should they publicly commit to a long-term strategy that stresses genuine teamwork, sustainability, and wellness? So far, they've chosen silence, which rarely wins championships. The plan is moving forward. If Caitlin Clark wants to control her destiny, as she clearly does, there are only a few plays remaining in her book. 1. Go dark. Shut it down. There are no half-speed returns. Time constraints should not be imposed on media pylons since they can make her appear incompetent. Allow your groin to recover completely. 2. Control the narrative. Begin communicating through her channels, rather than the team or league-approved communications. She possesses a significant platform. She have the ability to influence the story. She should also campaign for medical autonomy. If she does not already have complete authority over who manages her recovery, she should. This is not college anymore. She's a professional. The world's foremost experts should be behind her. 4th, evaluate Indiana's future. Although uncomfortable, this circumstance is an important aspect of the conversation. The rookie deal does not last forever. There will be plenty of other teams willing to build a true business around her if the Fever continue to treat her as a mascot rather than a major component. What the league should do. The WNBA now has responsibility in this matter as well. Because if Caitlin Clark burns out early due to mismanagement, it's not just an Indiana issue. This is a league-wide catastrophe. They need to step up and establish player protection protocols. They need to look into team medical standards. Above all, they must support their stars rather than simply branding them. The league enjoys exploiting Clark's picture on bumper stickers and billboards, but it's time to deliver when it matters. Caitlin Clark did not ask to save the WNBA, but her talent made her a symbol of hope, change, and the peak of women's basketball. She is now representing something different. A cautionary tale. A warning that even the most successful people can burn out if those around them fail to see that a human body lies beneath the numbers and shoe sales. One that fractures, bends, and bleeds like any other. This is more than just a story of a comeback. It serves as a warning. Clark is more than simply a Fever player. The WNBA must pay attention to her if it wants to avoid a crisis. She is performing for all young girls who want to reach the pinnacle without being shattered by the experience. Caitlin Clark's departure from the floor during the game versus Connecticut, plainly in pain, was more than just a medical issue. It marked a turning point. A long-brewing storm of conflict between her, the Indiana Fever, and the larger WNBA ecosystem erupted into a full-blown catastrophe. Missed All-Star games and groin injuries were no longer the only problems influencing her life. Now, a single individual's health determined the power, legitimacy, and fate of an entire league. A star on the sidelines represents a league on the verge of collapse. Let us be honest. It wasn't just disappointing that Caitlin Clark was not present at the All-Star weekend. From a marketing standpoint, it was devastating. Her presence served as the foundation for primetime ratings, brand collaborations, and ticket sales. Networks relied on her. She has many fans. Sponsors put her face on items. On products provided by sponsors. Then it was gone. Some imprecise words about tightness, a few cryptic sentences in a news release, and Caitlin's forced smile at Media Day conveying the message, "I'm fine," were more than disappointing. It was a surprise because it made one thing perfectly plain. The WNBA has erected a skyscraper on a faulty foundation. And Caitlin Clark is carrying considerably more than she should. The league's public relations cover is starting to crack. For months, league management and team representatives have tried to project a sense of hope. Every week, the same rehashed sentences were utilized. We are actively watching the issue. She is making improvement. She's a competitor, but fans aren't purchasing anymore. The facade is collapsing. The use of social media is increasing. Threads appeared to dissect Clark whenever he limped. Threads were developing. Every video of her flinching while playing was analyzed. Every time a coach minimized her pain as if it were only a minor stiffness. In reality, that slight soreness was caused by excessive wear and tear, abuse, and musculoskeletal imbalances. This type of damage will not heal with simply tape and Gatorade. Worse, the longer the league tries to downplay the situation, the more credibility they lose. Whispers in the locker room. The vibe in the Fever locker room has shifted behind closed doors. Being a member of the most anticipated rookie class since Diana Taurasi's franchise rebirth was exciting at first, but it has since turned into a source of dread. Veterans aren't only annoyed by losing. They are frustrated that one player continually dominates the attention. There are silent concerns about touches, rotations, and even medical partiality, even if the player is objectively leading the team. Despite the team's struggles to sustain a winning record, numerous players believe the entire organization is working really hard for Caitlin. Ironically, Caitlin feels abandoned when it matters the most. It is misalignment, not jealousy. An ecosystem must be built around a star of this magnitude. This imbalance is visible not only on the court, but also in the front office, the training room, and the public relations strategy. The system is currently failing. What Indiana should have done immediately if this were a different team or conference. Here's how it would have gone. Caitlin was had to rest for 2 to 3 weeks after pulling her groin. Top-tier professionals are hired regardless of the expense. In addition to treating the injury, a specific recovery plan is developed to prevent further injuries. Meanwhile, the crew rallies to support her absence. Coaching strategies change. The workload is rearranged. PR frames the injuries as part of a long-term strategy. Indiana did not do that. Before she could blink, Clark was back on the ground. The restrictions on minutes were inconsistent. Updates on health were vague. Furthermore, the camera changed to a coach who pretended nothing was wrong every time she glanced after a play. That is not a concern. Damage control is exactly what it is. Clark's camp is moving. You should reassess your belief that Caitlin is simply waiting out the crisis. Her staff, trainers, agents, and even intimate advisors from her Iowa days are gradually but firmly reclaiming control. Rumor has claimed that they have begun to assemble a medical team apart from the Fever people. They are targeting sports science schools, which are typically designated for top NBA players. They are contacting orthopedic specialists, sleep coaches, and biomechanical consultants who work with Olympic sprinters. This player does not simply want to finish the season. This is a French Shaq-caliber athlete preparing to survive the chaos in her immediate environment. And that is what concerns Indiana, because when a player of this caliber begins to remove herself from the club that drafted her, it is a danger sign. This predicament is troubling not only for her present squad, but also for every other team in the league who aspires to sign her after her rookie contract expires. Let's talk about 2026 because everyone is already aware of the secret. Caitlin Clark will leave Indiana if the matter isn't resolved soon. It will not be intimate. It will not even be dramatic. It'll be tactical. She'll join a franchise with a player-focused culture. One with established performers that want to play alongside her, not around her. A team of medical professionals that use cutting-edge recovery techniques, as well as a city that values her on and off the court. And you know what? Teams are already preparing for that situation. Do you believe the Liberty hasn't talked about potential cap space internally? Do you really think the Aces wouldn't swiftly adjust their roster to create space? Given that Clark appears to be on a multi-million-dollar endorsement track, you would think Nike would not discreetly urge her to reach a broader market. Unless Indiana wakes up, the conclusion is certain rather than speculative. What does this predicament mean for the future of the WNBA? Let's take a moment to extend our perspectives. Caitlin Clark is not only a terrific player, but she also serves as a litmus test. Her predicament exposes every problem that the league has long disregarded. Inadequate infrastructure for star development, strained player-team relationships, antiquated medical protocols, and unclear injury reporting. You aspire to be a prominent sports league. Generational talent cannot be considered as an interchangeable component. You must create systems, not just rosters, that can protect, support, and maximize them. Because if you don't, sponsors, international prospects, college stars, and the next generation will all see how you treat your best player. Furthermore, the optics are poor at the moment. Fans are better educated than ever. One thing the WNBA overlooked was the intelligence and vigilance of its fans. It's not the early 2000s anymore. Fans read the injury reports. They follow athletic trainers on social media. They discuss kinesiology on Reddit. Before the league's official Twitter account posts the final score, they identify bad games, change mechanics, and make ineffectual progress. You can't gaslight the audience anymore. People are aware if Caitlyn is ill. They will also loudly, openly, and persistently condemn any mistreatment of her. Although Caitlyn Clark is the focus of this story, it is really about the WNBA's impending phase. The league's fitness for the limelight, which Clark helped create, will be determined by how they handle this news, as well as how they shift direction, justify their conduct, and rebuild trust. This is a defining moment. Furthermore, defining moments shape character rather than show it. Please leave your opinions in the comments box, subscribe, and activate all notifications to ensure you don't miss anything. We'll see you in the next one once you click the video on the screen.